All right, scoring our Twin Show extra innings. Picked a banner of a day to forget my laptop. Haven't been at the ballpark in 10 days. It was a crazy last 24, 48 hours with the Vikings, obviously, Ross, and this is Score North Extra Innings. Declan Goff here, Ross Brendel. Full disclosure, I got out of my car. I scooter to Target Field. I park about 4 or 5 blocks away. I won't tell anyone where I park because I don't want anyone else to figure out how I cheat the system and park for very cheaply and be able to attend all these games. But as I got out of the car, I noticed my backpack was lighter. But I looked inside because I was like, oh, that feels weird. This doesn't feel as heavy as it should. But I open it and I just see my laptop case. So I figured, oh, okay, the laptop's in there. Then I'm good. I come to Target Field. I put my stuff down. I go straight down to Access. We have a great amount of information to give you here on Carlos Correa. Was able to catch up with him. Obviously, the big Rocco situation that went down yesterday. I have some stuff on that, including some notes on Byron Buxton. So I was super excited to come up here, transcribe some quotes, jump on the laptop, give you extra innings. And then I realized I don't have my GD laptop. So instead, I'm on my phone. I had to get the great Twins PR staff to print off my quotes that I transcribed. So this is my Jordan flu game to a degree for Score North Twin Show extra innings.
Well, you know what, Declan? You forgot your laptop. I only mildly botched the intro music. So I think we're off to a great start. And I can tell you without a doubt, and I'll make this very quick, I have the best story of all time, I think, for forgetting something or just doing something wrong and realizing it too late. That would be when one day I showed up to work, Declan, and I kid you not, I was not doing any shenanigans the night before. I showed up to work wearing 2 different shoes.
Oh,
I immediately got back in my car and drove home and changed shoes because I was not going to have that public ridicule all day long. So you're doing just fine. You're battling. I'm
battling.
We're here.
I'm battling. So hit the like button, subscribe button here on the Score North Twin Show YouTube channel. There's a lot to get to today. I was trying to figure out what's the best thing to lead with. I obviously wanted to catch up with Rocco and other players about the epic kind of meltdown blow up that happened with Rocco and the players for the first time. We can maybe get into that in a little bit. Instead, though, I have a Carlos Correa update. I saw him in the flesh. I spoke to him. Other reporters spoke to him. We have an update on Carlos Correa with my Judd Zolgad is very proud of me right now. My handwritten, or not handwritten, printed out notes. Here is the latest on Carlos Correa.
Dex's locker room notes. Go.
All right. So Correa is feeling very good. And he claims, these are quotes now I'm reading, that you'll see me playing baseball again pretty soon. Based on what I've been doing the last 3 days, we've discovered a treatment that's very painful and brings tears to my eyes. That is a direct quote from Carlos Correa. The treatment he is doing to counter this plantar fasciitis is bringing tears to his eyes. However, despite the pain and the tears it is causing him, we're crossing a line where we're thinking about the future, and that's very exciting. This is ongoing treatment. I asked him, when did this treatment start? He told me about 5 days ago. And now he's getting to the point where I have something on the calendar, but I still have to confirm it with the team. So Carlos Correa has been able to sprint for 3 of the last 4 days. He is going through treatment that is bringing him tears, literal tears to his eyes for the sake of returning to the Minnesota Twins. Over the last 4 or 5 days, he's woke up feeling pretty good. Again, that treatment started about 5 days ago. It's been daily too. I don't know if it's going to be daily like forever, but it's to the point where he said he feels really good for the first time in a long time.
Okay, so how about this? Will his tears of rehab bring tears of joy to Twins fans seeing him in the lineup anytime soon? And are we getting too late in the season, Declan, where I know they like him to have some sort of rehab assignment, but a part of me thinks, Declan, because of the way this season is trending, there's a dearth of offense in the lineup. Mm-hmm. You need your star players back. Is there any case to be made that when he thinks he's ready, he just goes out there and takes the field for the Minnesota Twins? Because we're getting light on days. I still do believe the Minnesota Twins will hold off all challengers and get one of those wild card spots. But this last weekend, very shaky for the confidence, which coincided with a nice weekend for Seattle. Boston takes 2 out of 3 from the crappy White Sox. I'm shaking a little bit. I need to see these guys back in the lineup. So will we see Buxton back anytime soon, and rather actually Correa. But then, yeah, what about Buxton? What can you tell us about what can we see Correa, and what do we know about Buxton?
Okay, well, I'm glad you asked me that, Ross, because obviously the minor league season is coming to an end here. So the Twins have actually brought up, as in they're not on the active roster, they're literally going to be present at Target Field, a handful of pitchers from Cedar Rapids, Class A Cedar Rapids, just to give these guys some arms so they can actually see some pitching. In the event that they don't want to send them on a rehab, or in the event they need them back, obviously ASAP. That's their plan. They called up a handful of arms to kind of have these guys see simulated game live pitching situations. So that's good news for Correa. On Buxton, he stayed back while the team was in Kansas City. Obviously, he left the St. Paul Saints game after being ejected for the first time, not in his major league career, in his minor league career. He's never been ejected before. So congratulations to that young umpire. But he wants to be playing. He's taking it day by day. We got one of those classic ones, but he is sprinting. He's running. He doesn't see himself, though, needing another rehab or really wanting to go on another rehab. And I think that's where both these stars are at, in Correa and Buxton. I don't believe that Correa didn't progress in his injury because there was a lieu of a rehab assignment that was going to be hindering over him. And Rocco even acknowledged in his pregame availability today that just because those live arms are coming up here from Cedar Rapids, that doesn't mean that some other type of rehab assignments could still be assessed to Correa, Buxton. Also, remember Max Kepler, Manuel Marco also on the injured list. But Buxton kind of made it sound like he doesn't really necessarily want to have to go on a rehab assignment if that does come back up. But it was interesting to hear that both of them are in different spots here too. Remember, Correa hasn't played in 2 months, Ross. I mean, I think it might have been my fault. I think his last game played was my wedding. And he hasn't played for the Minnesota Twins since, so that's a good sign. But it just feels like with Correa, I think kind of being the bigger headline here of this new treatment that is apparently so painful that it's bringing tears to his eyes, but he feels so good that he does have a date in mind to return. And they also Buck at least acknowledged that, hey, I'm never going to be 100% in September. So eventually these guys have to just accept that there's a pain threshold that they'll just have to accept and try to get through and pass so they can play for the Twins.
What level, if you had to go 0 to 100%, what percentage would you say these two will be at if and when they get back into the lineup? Because I phrase it like that and ask it to you like this because I'm starting to wonder, even if they are back, and I've been championing these guys need to come back. This sounds awful. I don't know the pain that they're going through. I know it's enormous. I know it's not fun. I know it's not comfortable.
Yeah, Correa's crying.
But this team needs them, and they're floundering without them. So I'm saying, yes, I need them there. I want them there, but I'm also going to set it up this way and say, is it possible that they just might not even be able to contribute very much at whatever percentage they are? And if so, how much trouble are the Minnesota Twins in? Because I do believe to finish this thing off and hopefully limp to a wild card spot, I think they need these guys back to help stave off the challengers. But I also think they need them back with some productivity. I don't think they need to be 100% of Carlos Correa or 100% of Byron Buxton, but they definitely need to be better than the replacement players. And I guess I'm just becoming more and more concerned by the day that they won't be.
So I think if you're telling me what percentage that they'd be at in a perfect world or where a pain threshold world that they could cross, I'd probably say at about 70, maybe 80%. And to Buck's point, to anyone's point, who is either active or on the injured list right now, yeah, by September 9th, which is today, no one is healthy. No one's at 100%. No one is feeling as good as they did when April and 4 or 5 months ago, it was the case when the season started. But I think if those two guys, Correa and Buxton, that is, are at about that 70% threshold, that's better than what they have right now. And look, Correa last year, who dealt with plantar fasciitis in his opposite foot, was able to let that heal to the point where he didn't play basically after the Twins clinched, got about a week and a half off, came back for the playoffs, and was vintage playoff Carlos Correa. I think we'll see, judging by these comments, and I could just be, being hypnotized and gaslit, but judging by these comments, specifically with Correa, I'll start there. I think we'll see him before the playoffs start. I think we'll see him taking some type of at-bats, whether I don't think that's this week. I don't even know if it's this homestand. Maybe it's the last one against Florida and Baltimore, which Baltimore and the Twins playing the last weekend of the series is going to be very interesting. So we'll see if either of those teams are still fighting for seeding or fighting for divisions or fighting for wherever they want to be at. But I think we're going to see Correa eventually. And with Buxton, in a similar vein, he just has to accept that he won't be healthy and won't be as strong as he wants to be. And that stinks. But I will take a 70%, hell, I'll take a 60%, 50% Byron Buxton in center field over what they've had to trot out there in center field. Willie Cashwell will play center on Monday for game 1 against the Angels. But I'll take what I can get with those guys because, to your point, Ross, this team is dead man walking without them in the lineup at all or active or healthy. So they just have to accept and they have to figure out what is that threshold that they can just kind of play through.
Okay, so then I'll walk you into something else from Dex's clubhouse notes, all Judd Zulgad style. Let's talk a little bit about the manager. I don't know how you want to term it, trying to fire up the team, laying into the team, whatever you want to call that. How much does that really matter, Declan, when the lineup that you currently have, some of the guys you're trying to lay into are guys that just, I don't want to be demeaning to them, but they shouldn't be here right now. So some of the guys who are on the receiving end of getting laid into, I don't know how much that matters because I don't think a lot of these guys are going out there trying to not score runs, trying to have bad at-bats. I think it's different if you have a full deck of cards and it's your full lineup and your star players aren't producing. Right now, they have very limited star players anywhere, whether that's in the rotation or in the lineup. So I'm not questioning it or even second guessing it. I'm just wondering, how much does it matter when you're just a little, short-staffed, I guess, for lack of a better term, in both the lineup and with the pitchers?
Well, I mean, when you still have to, I think, probably look at what they are using in guys like Royce Lewis, Trevor Larnach, Matt Wallner, Brooks Lee. Like, these are still players that are very much part of their future plans and are burdened, I guess, to your point, with trying to pick up the slack of star players being out. And now I think there's a pie chart here of players not executing on the field and manager also putting team in situation that I would not do or that just seemed very less than advantageous to do. But Trevor Larnach said he has never seen Rocco like that. Obviously, Rocco's a very kind of quieter. I wouldn't know if I'd say quieter. He's just not a rah guy. In my interactions with him, too, I wouldn't label him as quiet. I know quiet. You and I both talk for a living. We're on the annoying side. We're not on the quiet side. We're on the annoying and pestering side. So I know a quiet person when I see one. Certainly wouldn't label Rocco as quiet. But with Trevor Larnach basically saying, I think there was a lack of energy and momentum too. They haven't been able to string together good at bats. They dig themselves into holes. They only scored 2 runs over 27 innings. And I think they needed that ass kicking or tongue lashing from Rocco. And Jeffers kind of said a similar thing. But I think now you can't rely on that, but Rocco's never done that. Like, Trevor Larnach has played college baseball at Oregon State. He said, I've gotten my fair share of tongue lashings, probably not to the extent what Rocco gave them. He's had worse. He's heard worse, definitely, things at Oregon State. But at the same time, I think Rocco lost it. And I know the sports dad went on a very passionate rant also on this podcast feed and YouTube channel, which you can find today, about the whole situation, kind of calling a little bit fraudulent and hypocritical. But regardless, you've been losing games. You're in the middle of a playoff hunt. You're trying to stay alive. You're going to try everything to try to make it work. And Rocco seemed like that message was well received from the players to the point where he does feel he's chipper today. He's not in a bad mood. He's not, saying no comment. He's not basically saying, I'm not going to talk to the media today. That wasn't his strategy. He kind of seemed like his normal self. And I think the team mostly needed to hear that.
Okay, I'm gonna swoop in here, Declan, and just kind of can I have 30 seconds for just a mini rant or maybe try and clear the air on something, if that's okay?
Yes, absolutely.
And this really has nothing to do with anything, but I've seen it come up an awful lot on the X machine. I see it in our feeds, and I'm not trying to single anybody out. This notion that Rocco Baldelli needs to be fired has to stop. It's not going to happen. There is a almost 0% chance that Rocco Baldelli or Derek Falvey are going to be fired. What more do you want within their control? That's what I would say. Look, Rocco frustrates me on so many things. You're not going to fire a guy who routinely makes the playoffs, has a winning record as a manager, and again is currently sitting right now in a wild card spot with 3 weeks left to go in the season. He has won 451 games as manager of the Minnesota Twins, and he's been to the playoffs, what, Declan? If they make it this year, 4 times already?
4 times, I believe. Yep.
I truly don't get it. Yes, he makes dumb decisions. Every manager makes dumb decisions. I don't even like defending him. You know me. I rip on him an awful lot. It's just, he's not going to be fired. I think people are wasting their time when they say that. And Derek Falvey, he has made a litany of mistakes that I disagree with. Again, look at all the playoff appearances. I know we want championships. I'm not making excuses for that, but these 10 years haven't been brutal. So these guys aren't going anywhere. So I get that fans get frustrated. I get frustrated too. I thought pulling Bailey Ober on Saturday was not a second guess. It was a first guess. I thought it was an awful decision. You're not going to fire a baseball manager over one decision. So I'm not trying to attack people. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. That's my rant.
I mean, I agree. I don't think, and this is probably another podcast for when the season does end, but where do you put the blame? Do you put it on the manager making the decisions? Do you put it on the front office for lack of spending, but then also that trickles up to ownership? Does that start with them having limited resources? Hell, I'm not going to defend ownership here, but all I'm going to say is that there's a TV kerfuffle that you got in bed with, but every team in baseball is basically dealing with, and it's caused a huge problem with teams trying to figure out how they can go attack free agency and offseason spending. So there's like a whole layer, there's a 7-layer cake there of who is really, at fault. And I think that's probably a better episode for another day. But I'm with you. I think he's mostly done a very good job. I enjoyed my time with him. I think we talked about this, I believe, on Friday's episode of the Twin Show. And that was a fun episode where we kind of talked about pros and cons and good things and bad things with this team and organization. But I think the positive here is Angels are in town for 3 games. You can try to get right a little bit here. Next week against Cleveland, it takes 1 week. That's what I'm not trying to spin positivity out of nothing. It takes 1 week here where the Twins, if they take care of business with their 6 games and Cleveland goes on a little skid, 4 games in Cleveland, then the division's, the division will most likely be decided 10 days from now once that series is wrapped up. That's clear.
Yeah, and there's still plenty of opportunities, Declan, to your point for the Twins. You'd love to get healthy against the Angels, win at least 2 out of 3. We'll see if that happens. You're still going to have a chance to maybe put the nail in the coffin of Boston. At least winning 2 out of 4 against them would be helpful. And the Twins are still sitting in a very advantageous position despite what happened over the weekend. 3.5 up with the amount of games that they have left to play. It's a good spot to be in. I just don't get it. The same people too that are saying fire Rocco know who the ownership group is and what are the odds that the ownership group is going to pay a couple people at one time. So absolutely. The whole thing is lost on me. And again, I have plenty of nitpicks with him, but it's not going to happen. So thank you for allowing that tangent.
You're welcome. Again, Carlos Correa, hit the like button, subscribe button if you want Minnesota Twins content. If the Twins do make the playoffs, you can expect some extra innings content on the road. Hopefully somewhere nice. Hopefully somewhere where the Twins have a chance. I would love to go to New York, but I know how that story ends. I don't want to have to deal with that.
Hopefully somewhere Declan would like to visit is what you're saying.
But in all seriousness, we have been able to take the show on the road before, and I think we'll have that opportunity again here in a few weeks if the Twins, yes, indeed, make the playoffs, knock on wood. But Carlos Correa dealing with new treatment. It's very painful, but he has something on the calendar in mind of when he wants to return, and he's very encouraged at this point, being able to sprint. Byron Buxton's also been sprinting, so I don't know if we'll see these guys on this homestand, Roscoe, but there was at least some clarity, some type of update from 2 guys that a lot of Twins fans have been asking for, and we'll continue to monitor that and provide any other updates too that happen with those 2 core players.
Worst comes to worst, Declan, load them up on Tylenol, cortisone injections, and get them out there.
Roscoe, in this hellacious, hectic episode of the Score North Twin Show Extra Innings, my Jordan flu game to a degree, do you have a quick hitter for me? Is there one in the chamber? I know both of us have been running around. It's been a crazy Monday at the Score North house from everyone down even behind the scenes people and whatnot, and everyone like you and AJ doing great work as well. But did we prepare a quick hitter? Do we not have one? What's our status?
No, I do have one. It's topical with the team in town. I want to ask you a Mike Trout question. It's an easy go-to question, but I haven't specifically asked you, and it's a fun talker. Mike Trout still a first ballot Major League Baseball Hall of Famer in your eyes?
Yes.
Question mark?
Yes. First, yes.
Yep.
Easily first ballot.
I think so too.
I mean, you have to also, despite Mauer got in because he did it as a catcher and did things that at that position people haven't seen, whether it was not, even though there wasn't a long stretch. Mike Trout is a generational great player, and he plays for a crappy organization. And regardless what he's been able to do since he came up, and even though he's missed some time with injuries over the last few seasons, I've genuinely really liked what I've seen from Mike Trout. He is probably maybe the best player I've gotten to see over the last 10 to 15 years. And I don't think there'd be much debate over the last, since he debuted, who was the best player in that time. It's Mike Trout. I don't even know Aaron Judge has come along here in the last 5-6 years. That might be a fun conversation. Who's been better over the last 5 years? Maybe that is Aaron Judge. But yes, he's a first ballot, probably even like still 95% first ballot Hall of Famer.
I hope, Declan, that he can get healthy, and if the Angels don't ever materialize into anything, at least he can put together another solid few years. Because, I mean, when you look at the last handful of years, I think that's what's been damaging to quote unquote the legacy. But if he can get healthy and put together a couple nice years in the back half of his career, I think that will be incredibly helpful. But he is an enormous talent, so I want to see him healthy. And Declan, back in the day, you go back 5-6 years, this is really a nerd thing to say, but just watching him track fly balls, just like Buxton, effortless. I mean, so easy. Runs like a bleeping deer. Yeah, so we hope to see that healthy Mike Trout at some point. But yes, absolutely first ballot Hall of Famer, as is our guy for all of you haters, Hall of Fame Joe Mauer.
Exactly. Thank you, everyone, for making it through with us. Thank you to the Twins PR staff for the handwritten notes. Shout out to Idiot Declan for forgetting his laptop on game one of a very fun homestand here for the Twins. But appreciate everyone listening, watching the Score North Twin Show. Hit the like button, subscribe button. I'm going to let Roscoe hopefully land this plane. And we'll be talking at you another time on the Score North Extra Innings. Appreciate you guys.
Ye of little faith, Declan. Ye of little faith.